Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome back to Be My Guest. Today we have from Framingham, who came in today from Framingham. He is an author who does horror and podcasts. His name is Steve Vansamson. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
He has a slew of, would you call them generally horror books, Steve?
It's always horror or horror adjacent. So there's a fantasy book I did, but it's horror fantasy. Yeah. So if it's not pure horror, it's not too far. It's in that ballpark.
Were you always interested in this as a kid and growing up?
Well, I always loved monsters and like Godzilla and anything that's like anything that's not natural. Even something like the Loch Ness Monster fascinated me, or like Bigfoot, or anything like that. Anything that's just a little outside of what's natural, just very, very fascinating for me. And as a kid, I my parents never wanted to rent horror movies, so we'd go to our local video store, and I would like sneak over to the horror section and just like look at all the covers that I couldn't possibly see the movies for, and so I think it just was that forbidden fruit at first, and then it just kind of when I was finally able to watch this stuff, and I loved it. I loved the monsters. I liked being scared. I liked the building of tension and terror and that kind of stuff.
When you were in high school, did you know what you were going to be a writer when you left?
No, I had no idea.
What did you do when you left?
I became a graphic designer.
Animation, that type of
No, just more boring than that. Just advertising, marketing, graphic design, and it wasn't until I was long done with college even that. I came up with these ideas and these, I wouldn't have called them stories. I never thought of it as writing. I just would think of things. And I, sometimes getting together with friends, we'd, talk about these stories, but I didn't know what to call them. Yeah. I didn't even call them stories. They're just, I don't know, things. Yeah. And then in college, the one thing that I did right was I wrote Andrew a comic strip. So that was like my first time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to actually sit and write and draw something. And, from there, it just kind of eventually clicked that all these things I've been doing all these years, even though I haven't been writing them down, most of them, I was writing. I was coming up with ideas for stories, for
Did you graduate? Which college did you go to for the...
UMass Lowell.
So you graduated there?
Yes.
And then, how did you this is so fascinating how you got into this. After that, what did you do?
Well, I mean, I've been working full-time ever since, graphic design, which I still do. Yeah. I think it was around 2014 or so that I had an idea that was strong enough that I said, I'm going to just try to write an actual book. Yeah. And, I felt so important saying that too, which is so ridiculous.
No, it's good.
But at the time, I was like, I'm gonna do this thing.
I'm going to be an author.
And it's very funny. But how different things are from the outside and the inside, basically. But so I spent a really long time. I spent about 3 years working on this thing that is always going to be on the shelf now. I'm never going to release it. I'm never going to finish it. But it was the first thing. It was the first thing that I actually wrote in prose form, in long form prose, I should say. And that was like, okay, when I got to the end of that, I was like, I think I want to do something different. Mm. And I loved horror, and that wasn't horror, actually. That was more fantasy, kind of like for young adult sort of a thing, like middle grade or something. And then after that, I was like, why am I not doing horror? That's what I love the most. Why aren't I doing that? Mm. So I wrote my first book, which was The Bone Eater King, and that is a vampire story. And the reason I decided to start with vampires is because of this just idea that I had. I was like, yeah, well, whatever I do for horror, it's not going to be one of two things. I'll tell you right now. It's not going to be zombies,
Yep.
and it's not going to be vampires.
Well, you look at his T-shirt. It says the Bone Eater King.
Yeah, so this was, yeah, so
You ordered those, right?
well, yeah, you know what? I didn't even remember I put this on. Oh my goodness. What have I done?
Oh, come on.
Shameless self-promotion.
Perfect. He's open. I want to hear about this stuff.
So so I had this. I'm like, never vampires, never zombies. And then about 2 seconds later, I was like, you know what? I haven't seen with vampires, and I thought of this idea. And so I said, well, let's just see what happens. And so I ended up writing 2 books. So you have there the Bone Eater King, and then the sequel is Marrow Dust. And I wrote those back to back.
Those are back to back.
Yeah.
Now these are the most. There's one that hasn't come out fully yet.
Yes.
What was the name of that one?
So my newest one is called Year of the Rattlesnake. That's going to be put out by Weird House Press, and that is slated for November this month.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's actually going to get to drop this month or not. There was a recent delay that happened. It's going to come out soon. I'm confident it'll come out this year. Very proud of this book. It is a collection of weird Western stories. So, again, it's Westerns,
Yeah.
but it's not that far from horror. There's a lot of horror in that book. And the preferred term is weird Western. That goes back to the 30s. That's like a, Robert E. Howard is the guy who created Conan, and he was kind of the progenitor of a weird Western. So it's a Western story with any unnatural elements.
What
so
was
you
that
could
one
have
with Yul Brynner? He played,
Westworld.
Westworld. That was
Yeah.
kind of along that line, right?
Well, yeah, a little bit. That was sort of meta because the Western was a theme park within our world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anything that's like, or they had that like Cowboys and Aliens movie a 10 years ago or something. Anything that's not supposed to be there is a weird Western, and that includes horror. So this is very. I have a lot of Twilight Zone horror in this book.
I love Twilight Zone.
Yeah, me too. I love old stuff.
We are talking with Steve Vansamson, and he is not only an author of horror, but he's also a podcaster. Now, these are two of the latest books.
Yes.
A Black Honey and Other Unsavory Things.
Yes.
Did you do the cover?
No, I did not. Cover is done by my very good friend and publishing partner, Derek Rook. He is a Worcester-based comic book artist, and his company is Rough House Publishing, and they are the ones who put out that book, Black Honey. Those are the same book, but we do different versions.
Yeah, what's called and what is it? Yeah.
Right. The hardcover is a deluxe version. It comes with some extras, and we only sell those on the Rough House Publishing website. Whereas we release the paperback more broadly. But yeah. So, and it's signed in the hardcover is signed and numbered, and it's just limited.
What are they basically? What is it about?
So in the same way that Year of the Rattlesnake is a collection of stories, that is all weird Western. This is more just broad horror for adults, but they are all short stories. So I didn't intend to put out 2 collections right in a row.
Yeah.
Because I had done 3 novels first. I did. Bone Eater King, Marrow Dust, and then my fantasy book, Mark of the Witchworm. Yeah. And then I went into 2 collections. It just wasn't planned, but that's how the cookie crumbled.
Right.
So this represents this is a milestone that pretty much every writer, if they keep going long enough, a couple of years, they're going to get to this point where they're going to say if they write short form stuff as well as novels, if they write short form stuff that's getting published in anthologies and collections, they're going to get to this point where they have enough, and they're going to say, all right, I'm going to collect all the good ones into my own book, and this is
series, right?
This is this. So this represents about 5 years of work.
Black Honey and Other Unsavory Things, in hardcover, and this. Steve, how can they get a hold of your book?
So if you want the hardcover, which is the version to have, it's really cool. There's tons of extras in there. We have a bookmark. We have double-sided, both of those 2 things. Monster trading cards. They're 5x7 cards. They're done up like the old Mars Attacks cards, kind of like in the 50s or 50s, 60s were kind of popular. And we did cards. There's a bunch of stuff in there, and that is only on roughhousepublishing.com.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely where you want to pick up that version of it. And the hardcover's only there. The paperback is also on the website. Paperback's also available broadly. You can actually go to your local bookstore and request Black Honey in paperback. They can get a hold of it
So,
for you.
Steve, where have you been appearing? Let them know. Or anywhere you're going to be appearing.
So we are at the end of my appearance season for the year. So this is
Really? You're stopping at holiday season?
well. So I'm a horror author.
Yeah. There are kids who would love to get these for Christmas. Come on.
That's true. So basically, a lot happens in October.
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of cons that I just got done doing. I did Monster Expo, which is Monster. Monster.
Where is it? Where do they hold that?
So there's a couple of them. Sometimes it's in Taunton. Sometimes this past one was in Taunton. Sometimes it's in like New Bedford. So there's a few a year, and they are adding a third location, third time of year. I think this coming July. Actually, I'm not sure where that one is. It's a great little con that started about 3 years ago, and I've been there every show with Rough House Publishing. And we do very well. We love those guys. We love the people who come to see us. And so I did that. I just had an appearance a few weeks ago at the Merrimack Valley Halloween Book Festival.
Isn't that up New Hampshire?
No. So it's Haverhill.
Haverhill.
That took place. Yeah, it's been going for a long time. I don't know if it's 20 years, but I think it's like kind of pushing 20 years. I could be wrong on that, but it's been going along for a while. It was Christopher Golden was the one who always ran it, and people might recognize his name. He's a very prolific writer.
You seem like the type
successful.
of person who is a leader who could actually start your own cons, conventions.
Thank you very much.
Definitely.
You
can tell he's right into it. I mean,
You need money for that. You need backers. And
hey,
need some-
you should be able to get them. I've got a stack of books here by Steve.
This is only some of it.
These
So
are some of them. These
I
are some of
restrained.
them.
I restrained.
Mark of the Witchworm?
Yes.
What's that?
That was my dark fantasy book. That came out in 2021.
Yeah.
Rough House Publishing again. That was the first time that I was published actually the second time, because I did do a story in a comic book that they released as well, called Gore Shriek Resurrectus Volume 2. I had a story in that. But Mark of the Witchworm was kind of a gamble because the company had done only pure horror before. And some extreme horror. That was really what they were known for. So this was neither of those things. This was like horror adjacent, as I said, but it's mainly fantasy, and it's nothing extreme about it. In fact, this is my story. It's really kind of my most heartfelt. I think.
Well, I can see
would
the
say.
empathy. It starts right off with the man is searching for somebody to cure his dying son.
That's
right there.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
You know, he's trying to save his kid. So whereas most fantasy, is trying to save the world or a kingdom or a princess or something like this is his kid. He's just trying to save his kid. So he's not really interested in having this adventure per se. Because I wanted a Conan with heart. That's kind of like what I wanted.
Right.
So this guy has gone out into the world to find what he hopes is out there, but he doesn't know for sure.
Marrow Dust.
Yes.
What's that?
So that is the second book in the vampire. It's a duology right now. I call the series Predator World.
A duology?
It's a duology. It'll be a trilogy. I'm writing the third book later this year. So it'll be interesting to go back to this world later this year, I should say later, 2024. This is the continuation of the story that starts in The Bone Eater King, and the second to main character. I'm a big fan of small casts. First of all, really big fan of small casts. I don't like learning a billion names. I feel like it prevents you from really getting to know people, especially if it's not. If it's a show that's going to run for 7 seasons, okay, sure. Or, a series of books that runs for 12 books, okay, sure. But I like small casts. I like just personally. So I tend to do that. In this book, in that first one, Bone Eater King, it's mainly 2 characters, and then they kind of encounter a third one. There aren't too many more characters than that. So the main character in this one is a man who has amnesia, and he has no idea where he is who he is or anything like that. And the whole series takes place in Africa. So I took vampires, I put them out into the African plains, and the kernel of the idea was, what if you were, chased by vampires and it was nighttime and you're out in the Serengeti? Like, isn't that a different location? And what would you do when there's no buildings or anything like that? There's no shelter. You're just out there, and where does the story go from there? So that was like the kernel of the idea. And then I wrote the first book, and then at the end of it, I was like, the second to main character is this woman named Ray, and I loved her so much, and I couldn't say goodbye to her. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
Like, she has more to do, she has more to say, so I wrote Marrow Dust for her, and she becomes the main character. So that's why if you look at the two covers, one's very male, one's very female. There's in the face, if you look at the face.
No. Inside?
No, it's like in the darkness of that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love the red and the blue. I mean, the colors of themselves are creepy enough.
Thank you.
Do you ever combine, this is good, sci-fi with your horror?
Yeah, I haven't, but I have two ideas that I really, really want to do someday, because I do feel like that is my final love that I have not tried to write in.
Yeah.
And I love sci-fi.
So does our producer.
Oh, okay.
He loves it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I have two ideas that I'm interested in that I would like to do someday, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, you know why? Because it just feels, sometimes you get a feel with an author about what they're, obviously you're passionate about what you're doing. I mean, it's very obvious. You could easily add sci-fi.
Sure.
You could think, you have an imagination that a startup bees, boy, you could just segue right into it.
Well, you know what? That's what's great about horror.
Yeah.
Like, anything can be horror. You could have a romance. You could have, it's like Pride and Prejudice and zombies, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could have anything become scary.
Yeah.
Any genre. So it's almost as if horror doesn't really... It is its own genre, but it doesn't really need to be its own genre. It's sort of just like a state of mind. It's like anything can become scary.
We're talking with Steve Vansamson. I'll get that right. Steve, how can they reach you? Get your books.
So you can find me personally on Facebook. I am there. I have an author page. Steve Vansamson. Look me up. There I am. And I'm also. I was on Twitter. I kind of stopped doing Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky, which is a new platform. If anybody is on Blue Sky, definitely for my books. Especially the last couple, which is Mark of the Witchworm and Black Honey. Go to roughhousepublishing.com. And the new one is Year of the Rattlesnake. So if you are interested in Westerns, if that's at all interesting, and you like the idea of scary Westerns and really nasty characters that you probably shouldn't care about as much as you might end up caring about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they all, none of them end well, though. But the thing I did was with that one, all the stories are linked. Mm-hmm. So in Year of the Rattlesnake, it's you see characters reoccur from story to story. So you never know who's going to pop up again, but it's interesting. That, for Year of the Rattlesnake, please go to Weird House Press. So both of the companies have house in the name. I don't know. Like Random House wants to give me a call. I'm apparently only publishing.
Steve, if somebody's watching and would like to
house.
have you come and give a presentation, a book signing, how would they connect with you?
Definitely, you can email me at steve.vansamson@gmail.com. And Van Samson has no P. Everybody wants to put a P in there.
Yeah. No,
it's just
not.
Van Sam.
Yes.
Son.
All right, now I'm holding these. I mean, just the covers alone draw you in. Wicked Weird and Totally Tubular Terrors.
Yes. Pretty fun. I have just one story in each of those. Wicked Weird, I'll say, is put out by the New England Horror Writers, and they're a great local organization. I've been friends with them for years, and they it was actually them that I first started doing conventions with.
Yeah.
My first convention ever was 2017, and it was Rock and Shock in Worcester, which unfortunately is no longer there.
Yeah, what happened to them? They just
The backers pulled out.
Oh.
And they did it for 14 years,
Yeah.
and it was really a local institution, and especially for horror fans, it still stings like we're not over it at all. And but I was able to do a couple of cons with them. I love those guys, and they put out every year. They put out a different anthology with the word "wicked" in the title. So like they have Wicked Witches, Wicked Monsters, Wicked, Seasons, Wicked Sick, Wicked. The new one's Wicked Sick. Has a plague doctor on the cover, and so that was just the one that I was in.
Steve, what do your kids think of your books? I bet
Oh,
they're gonna
they're not that interested at
No?
all. No.
Well, how old are they now?
Well, one's 24, one's going to be 15. So they
I
have,
feel a bit older. Yeah.
they have more. You know what? Neither one was despite myself and their mom being big readers and big fans of books, and there are books in the house everywhere. Neither girl really
read.
became much of a reader.
Is it because of the computer age and all this stuff?
I mean, if you want to get into it, sure. I'll sound like a grumpy old man. It's the phones and it's the screens, and I think it is. Yeah.
How can you not hold the thing and read it? All right.
I mean, even if you're reading on your screen, that's fun too.
Okay. I like this guy. Mark of the Witchworm.
So that's the deluxe version. That's the hardcover. We did so that one comes with a bookmark. And that has lots of other stuff with it, too. We did a double-sided poster in there and all different stuff. I don't know if it's in that copy. That was my personal copy I just brought. But I don't think any of the stuff's in there. But the cover, we wanted to do a completely different cover. So people could feel like, okay, you either want the hardcover or you want the soft cover. And that one's a wraparound too. If you open it,
he's got his tail in the back.
Yeah, he's got his tail in the back.
Did you design it?
So I was involved in the layout. Yes, like the basic idea of so that was myself and my partner Derek Rook. We decided what the two covers were going to basically look like, and then that artist is his name is Renee Eigner, and he is a Munich-based artist who's worked on Game of Thrones and lots of different things. He's an amazing artist, and so that piece is I would say about 90% him and 10% me. There were things that I did to it as well.
I like this one. I mean, I like the one of the other ones I saw, but this one gets me because I love the artwork.
Yeah.
I think so much of what sells of books is what's on that cover that draws the people in.
Well, it's interesting. So I mentioned Derek Rook. The two of us were talking about what was the cover of Mark of the Witchworm going to be, and what you see for the two covers is our two ultimate hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
So I said, look, I really think that it needs to be a lonely, cold, spooky cover of the main character riding on his horse in the wintry forest by himself, and there's danger around, but he doesn't see it. And that was my subtle cover. And he's like, I want the monster. He's like, I want a big fight with the monster on the cover, so people know what they're getting.
Yeah.
And I think that by far the more popular is that monster cover, the one you were just holding.
Yeah.
But I do hear people say that they like the other one better. So it's really interesting. They are just could not be more polar opposites as far as tone goes, as far as the palette. One's cold, one's warm. Action, no action. They're so opposite, but they both serve as as decent covers for that story. And
Now the one that's coming out is
cool.
the Rattlesnake.
Yes, Year of the Rattlesnake.
What's the cover on that one?
Oh, so it's so great. People really responded to it. I'm over the moon with the responses for it. It's the illustration of one of the stories. Mostly, we changed some stuff. In the end of one of the stories, there's this guy who's about to get his final just desserts. There's a lot of just desserts in Year of the Rattlesnake, and he is being chased by this giant, enormous, 20-foot snake. But it's not really a snake. It's like a construct out of dirt and roots and the earth. It just kind of grew out of the earth, and I don't want to tell you what. You got to read the story. So he's running for his life from this thing. So the initial idea was that there was going to be a character running towards the viewer, and the artist, who's this amazing artist, his name's Wayne Miller, M. Wayne Miller. He's incredible artist, and he came up with the snake was perfect, and then he did the guy coming towards us, and we like, well, maybe the guy should be turning to face the snake, and so we ended up doing a few different versions, but we ended up with a gunfighter facing the snake. So that doesn't really happen in the story.
Yeah.
So you get the snake from the story, but the guy's a little bit different.
Well, I gotta tell you, I absolutely hate snakes. So
This is a big one.
In a wild way, I think the cover would be fascinating.
Yeah.
It really. So that's coming out, well, supposedly this month.
Yeah, supposedly this month, and if not, then it'll definitely be soon, for
Definitely
sure.
will be soon. And as we talked about in the beginning of the show, we've got just a couple minutes left. We have black honey and other unsavory things.
Yes.
One's in hardcover, one's in softcover. And again, Steve, how can they get a hold of you and your books?
Yeah, so the books, go to roughhousepublishing.com if you want to get a hold of me personally for an appearance, or if you would like to purchase a signed copy of any of my books, I can certainly facilitate that as well. You can email me at steve.vansamson, no P, at gmail.com. And you can also find me on Facebook. That's really the best way to find me.
So
find my author page. And
So you're done
shoot
right
me a
now
message.
with appearances as far as conventions and that?
Yes, for this year.
For
yeah.
this year. And when are you starting up again? January?
No, I think our next big one's going to be, I think we have like an April and a March and stuff like that. Don't do too many a year,
Yeah.
actually.
Do you ever go to the big regular book fairs? There's one every year in Rhode Island. The Rhode Island Authors Expo.
I've been once.
Do you know Steve Porter? He's the one who used to run it, and now it's they have their own bookstore and publishing.
Okay.
Steve Porter. But I've been to that. It's humongous.
Yeah, I did 1 year. It
What do you think?
was a while ago. It was like 2020 or 2019, I think
Yeah.
it must have been.
Before COVID, I think.
It was before COVID, so yeah, 2018,
Big, huh? But
2019.
was it in Cranston or at that big motel in the other one?
It was in Cranston.
It was in Cranston. Remember that big old thing? Roads on the Pawtucket? Oh,
Yes,
my God.
yes,
That thing,
yes.
I went in there as a person, and they all know, oh, she's the publicist, quick, get her. And,
Yeah.
I can't possibly, I hate feeling like I'm passing up this one and going this way because they're looking at you like, come to my table. I hate it. You are going to, but, you, especially with your genre, I think you could go probably to any book.
Oh, well,
any
thank
book
you.
sale. And there's so many, we just talked about it, so many independent books, especially in this area. Oh my gosh. I know of so many of them that would just love to have, and it brings in, let's be honest, a very select, I think, audience that goes for this, and this is big. This type of thing right now we got about 1 minute left. Steve, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now
It was
let
really
me know
fun
when the
chat.
next one is, when it's finally here.
Yep.
Okay, and then when you let me know, we'll get you on again if you want to come in next year,
Sure.
or whatever. We got to keep track of this guy, and you're going to maybe donate a couple of these to our library.
Yeah,
I think,
sure.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can actually get to read some of his right over there,
Yep.
and then you can get really anxious and wait for the next one's coming up. So you guys who love horror and all that type of thing, boy, this is your author. Let me tell you, this guy, you're out of sight. So glad we
Thank
had
you
you
so
on.
much.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time. I'll be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.